Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, host of the Open Line Garden Show, and this is this week's podcast. Real and artificial trees. At this time of year, we are always getting into the Christmas spirit, and we want to talk about decorating. We're going to start with the artificial simply because it's a lot easier to do. But one key thing, and that is that both artificial and real do shed needles. And the older an artificial tree gets, the more that you get more needles cast. Now, needles cast to a gardener means your evergreen tree actually has a disease. But this is not a disease. This is just from wear, tear, and age. So when you pick an artificial Christmas tree, buy one that you like and enjoy looking at, because eventually you're going to have to replace it. Now, there are several different models and designs and colors, etc. But when you buy them, there's two general groups, the plug-in type and the folding type. And it doesn't matter which way you go. They're all artificial and they're all decorated the same way. Now, let's start with the ones that plug in. When you get a plug-in, you put the stand on, you put the trunk up, you leave the top off, at least I do, okay? Now, you take your extension cord and you tie it to the middle of the trunk. Once you've got a nice little half knot, you can tape it to the back side of the tree. So if it's going to be viewed from one side or two sides or three sides, you tape your plug end, and it should be one with multiple plugs, so you don't see. I prefer to use a brown extension cord simply because the trunks are usually brown. Down the back of the tree and can go over to the wall. The other thing is that out somewhere I pull it out if it's not long enough, and out near the edge of the tree is where I plug another extension cord into the wall. This means it is not going in behind the decorated tree in order to unplug it each day or each night. Remember, you're never going to leave even an artificial tree unattended ever with the lights on. Okay? So this way you'll be able to unplug it right out at the tips of the branches. The next thing that I do is you plug in the bottom set of branches. If it's a folding tree, then the first set of branches is allowed to come down and the rest are held up. I usually use a large softy tie that I have from the garden, or if I don't have that, a bungee cord or even a piece of cord or string. Then with it down, you do a little bit of shaping. Are you going to decorate the tree all the way around? Half, 3/4? I always recommend about 2/3, and the reason is that it usually goes to the corner or nobody sees the back half. So that saves you a little on decorations and lights, etc. Now, this method of putting the lights on is the correct way. It's when you see them decorated in the stores, this is how it's done. The problem is you use a lot more lights. Now, here's what you do. You plug in your first set to that plug that's halfway up the trunk. There's always a bare section on the lights. You pull it straight down the trunk to the first branch to be lit. And I usually do the farthest branch around to the right, and I loop it around the stem up one side woven so that there is a light at the end of the branch at the top side, down the next side, around that stem so that that's now tight on that branch, over to the next branch and do exactly the same thing, around, up the left side, down the right, around, and that's the way you do each branch as you go. Each successive set of lights is plugged in and pulled down to the next run. And you just keep going. If you get one branch that only gets half a set of lights, put it to the front side or the most viewable side and leave it. I can't be bothered trying to work out and wiggle them around so that you've got one up one side and not down the other. It just doesn't work. Okay? So up and down, up and down. Finish a layer, pull the next layer down, shape it, and then go and work your lights around exactly the same way. You work your way up the tree until you get to that very top. Now, the top is usually always one piece. It always seems to be flattened, misshapen, etc. So do a little soft, gentle, notice I said gentle because these are the branches that usually break first because they're just little wee ones. And then you gently pull them apart. Now, you plug in the lights, go up the back of the tree because sometimes it's a long ways and sometimes you will have lights on the backside of the trunk. That's okay. It just makes it a little brighter. And that's a good thing, actually, and I'll tell you why later. Then what you do is you twirl a set of lights. Now, these are all miniature lights, and they go and are just gently pushed in with your fingers around the lights. At that point, I start to make a decision on whether I put the angel, the star at the top, whatever decoration. My tree, it's always the kid's angel that she made when she was, in grade 3, maybe even kindergarten. So it's a good 15, 18 years old. As a result, it's doing very well. It's well protected. And of course, it's the angel on the tree. Has to be there. So that goes on at that point. That way I'm not going to be putting and leaning into the decorations in order to get it on at the end or going up a ladder and falling off again. Okay? Now, if you have young children in the house, and maybe some of your friends that come to visit, you want to tie the tree to something to keep it upright. The last thing you want is this to fall over, particularly after it's all decorated. So do a string, ties, softy ties from the garden, and tie it up so it cannot fall over. Very important. The other thing is, if you have young children, I always put bells on the undersides of the bottom branches. This means as they're crawling around or getting near the tree, of course, they're going to knock the branch a little bit and ring the bells. And it's like a burglar alarm. Get away from the presents. In other words, you can be in the other room and know what their kids are doing, okay? Or in some cases, the husband, okay? Once that's done and the bells are on there, I like to put them on early because when I'm decorating the trees, the bells will be knocked and you're going to ring the bells. One, it tells the kids that the bells are on there, okay, and then stay away. Two, it sort of puts me in the Christmas spirit, maybe put some Christmas music on, carol the bells and things like that. But the next thing I do is I take the glass balls that you get at the grocery store, everywhere, garden centers, Christmas stores. They're just plain, ordinary, glossy, 2.5-inch glass balls. I like green ones. And I hang the green ones in through the center of the tree. Great. This makes it a little fuller. If you're going to find that that tree is, and you'll know this, is a little sparse even at this point, then sometimes what I do, knowing this, I take green garland, or I'll take the color garland that I'm decorating the tree in and literally wrap the trunk of the tree as well after the lights are on and as I'm going up branch by branch by branch. And what this does is fills out the center of the tree, particularly an inexpensive tree. Okay? Now, once you've got all the glass balls hanging in the center, the tree now is going to look much fuller. Step back, look at it from where people are going to be sitting and at the angle people are going to be sitting and looking at. You're going to move some of those glass balls around, right, to give you the best and optimum fill. Now, when you've got that done, you line up all your ornaments that you're going to use on the tree. And understand this, 3. The power of 3, okay? Usually you pick 3 different types of ornaments to go on a tree, and they're literally spaced up and down symmetrically all the way around the tree. So one ornament, you may have 18 of the same ornament, and 18 of another, and 18 of another. What you do is you start and you go down the tips of the branches with the same pick, down one run vertically. You then take the other pick and run down vertically the next one. And then the third type of pick going down another one. Whether this is a pick, an angel, etc. does not matter. As long as it sits out on the end of the branch, you keep rotating away through. Once that's done, all the way around, the full 2/3, your tree is starting to come to life. Now, the garland goes on last. Remember that. Now you go and you look at it and you hang things like candy canes on other branches. You go and you hang angels down, icicles, anything that will hang down from underneath a branch to help fill it in. Now you've got all the ornaments on. Now you got to step back and go, yeah, that looks fabulous. Now we've got these special ornaments that the kids always put on every year. Grandma gave me this one, or the glass balls with the kids' names on them, etc., etc. And they have to be found a special place on the tree. So that's the only exceptions to this type of decorations where they have to go on, even though they're probably going to end up being in the wrong place. Now, garland is done, and it is always looped, right? You start at the bottom, you start at the back, and you loop up and down, up and down, up and down. And the garland actually goes through the last set of branches inside the pick. So it's always never at the tip, it's always just back in and up and down, up and down. The length of the dip in the garland is basically at the bottom bigger and gets smaller and smaller as you get to the top, simply because the space between the branches is getting smaller as well. But you want it symmetrical. There's the kicker. It's hard. Garland is an art. Everything else can be taught, but garland is an art, and some are a lot better than others. In my house, I'm the garland guy, okay? The rest of the family can be trained to do all the other stuff, but when it comes to the garland, I'm the guy. So the garland goes on all the way up, looping it smaller and smaller, simply because the branches are a little tighter together. When you get to the top, you put the garland on the same way that you put the lights on. You twirl it around and gently force it in with your fingers. And then you go and you always make it sort of droop. Now, it doesn't always match the loops from the bottom. It's almost impossible because the branches are so tight. But it can be done gently, carefully, and you're done. If you have extra garland at this point, I never break it, never cut it, never tie it in a knot. It always sits at the back half of the tree, whether it's a ball at the back, down at the bottom on the first set of branches, but everything is done all the way up. The reason is that someday you're going to want more or less garland, and you don't want to tie them together and have this ball, okay, in the inappropriate place where you've tied the knot. This will make your garland do really well. The garland that I like using on our tree has real silver in it, and of course it has that tarnished look after, 15, 20 years? But it sort of gives that look of an old Christmas tree. So the ornaments can be done to bring that out. Use the reds and greens. Use the other colors that you like. But there is no reason why you cannot make a Christmas tree blue, red. I have seen amber. I have seen them with all glass and mirrored ornaments. that literally shine. And when you get one that bright and shiny, you almost don't need lights. So it's up to you. I have done blue Christmas trees that were blue branches, green branches, white branches, pink branches. Pick the color that goes well with the tree that you like, and that's the most important thing you can do. So once you've got this all in, make sure you've got the bells on there so that the kids and the people get too close to the tree, it rings the alarm bells, and you tell them to get away from the tree. Make sure, again, you never leave your Christmas tree with the lights on, unattended, whether it be a real tree or an artificial. And, of course, tie it up. Simply because your Uncle Bob's going to come and he's going to have a little one too many and he's going to end up in the Christmas tree. Or the kids are going to fall and pull it over, etc., etc. Or maybe the presents they're putting under the tree are just so big it knocks the tree over, which has always been my dream. But, hey, I'll be happy with socks. That would be great. I always like socks. The wilder, the better. Have a good Christmas. And the next podcast, we will do decorating Christmas trees, both real and, of course, your old garden containers turned into Christmas pots outdoors, and how to do wreath swags indoors and out. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is this week's podcast for the Open Line Garden Show.